Hey guys, it's your girl and I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning, night, evening, afternoon, like whatever time you're watching this. I hope you're having a great day. And yeah, so if you are new here, welcome, and if you are returning, then like I always say, thank you so much for sticking through my craziness, so as you can see by the title, we're going to be getting into some pretty interesting topics. We're going to be talking about insecurities. If you know me, you know that insecurity has been such a huge part of my life for so long, something that I've dealt with forever, which I feel like qualifies me to talk about it. Yes, this is something that I still deal with on a pretty regular basis, but I feel like I've gotten, throughout the years of dealing with this, I have grown so much from where I was originally to now, and I just wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I've learned throughout that process and that has helped me, in hopes that you guys get something out of it and are able to just grow, past your insecurities and just become more confident in yourselves, because I feel like even though that's something that I still struggle with today, I have become so much more confident in myself. So I just pray that you guys are able to get something out of this and also grow, because it is hard. Like, trust me, like it is hard out here. All right, so we're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna talk about 5 different tips. Sorry if I keep looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. But we are going to be discussing, I can't talk. So we are going to be discussing 5 different tips for the insecure soul. You are trying to overcome your insecurities. The very first thing that I believe needs to be established is identifying the root of your insecurities. Now, what that means is basically just figuring out at what point in your life did you get yourself to that point where you started to feel insecure? At what point in your life did this insecurity come? Like, when was it birthed? Now, some of you guys might say, and I would have said this like a couple years ago, that I've just always been insecure from birth. Like, it's just my life. Like, I'm just born an insecure person. That's just how I've always been. But in reality, I don't believe that's true. I believe that something has happened in everybody's life who deals with this that caused that to become, like it caused like a seed to be planted, if you kind of want to use that analogy. And over time, if it wasn't addressed or if it wasn't nurtured in the right way or dealt with in the right way, then it will continue to grow and fester and just become something big that just consumes you. Like, if you want to compare it to maybe like a weed that you have, that maybe it just got planted and it's a small little weed at first. And for anyone who knows anything about gardening, if you don't deal with that weed, as soon as you see it, it will begin to grow and it will begin to produce more, to the point where now your garden is full of weeds. And not only is it full of weeds, but the weeds are killing the good plants, the grass, the flowers, like everything that you have that is good in your garden. And so that's kind of how insecurities are as well. They start from something little. It could be something little. Like for me, it was my siblings. And again, for any of my siblings that may be watching this, I'm not blaming you guys for my insecurities, but sometimes things just happen. And my siblings tend to be the kind of people that they would just make fun of each other, and they would pick on each other and pick on me, and for them, they just kind of brush it off their shoulder. But I took it a little bit more personally. Like, let's say if I was drawing some type of artwork, and then they would come over and see it and just be like, oh, that's, that looks really gross. And this is like when I was young, so I was like probably like 7 or 8. So obviously I'm not going to be an artist at that age, but maybe some of you guys are, I don't know. But I was not. And I consider myself a sensitive person, which is not the same thing as insecure. So because I was a sensitive person and I was different from my siblings, it would act the same towards each one of us. But because I am a sensitive person, I started to take it a little bit more personally, and they couldn't understand that because that's not how their personality was. And so because of that, my insecurities started to develop, because, you know, hearing that stuff from your siblings kind of like can make you question, you know, like, how good are you at something? And again, I was pretty young, so I shouldn't have even cared that much that they thought my artwork was, you know, not that great, but it did hurt me. Started to grow my insecurities. So whatever that could be for you guys, maybe there was a situation where maybe if you're a girl, or even if you're a guy and you got rejected by somebody, that could have kind of started something in you, and you were really questioning that rejection. And maybe you never gotten rejected by somebody before, and for some reason, depending on the circumstance, it really hurt you, and that kind of started to grow an insecurity in you because of that. So again, it can be birthed into many different forms, but the main point I'm trying to get at is that you need to identify it, because that's going to be the very first step to overcoming your insecurities. The second thing would be to know your insecurities. Now, being insecure doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're insecure about everything. There could be very particular things that spark your insecurities. Now, for me, at my church, I do worship. So I play the guitar and I sing. I'm very insecure about my ability to perform, like, and I don't want to call it perform because it's, you know, it's worship, so we're doing it for the Lord, but in my ability to do a good job and like to sing nicely. And like, if somebody were to not compliment me, even if they didn't say anything bad, if they just didn't compliment me, I would think that like, oh my gosh, I did terribly. And that will kind of like feed into my insecurities, and that's where my insecurities are mainly from, at least in this season in my life. And if you want to generalize it, what I've noticed is my insecurities are from me doing things. It's not necessarily people commenting on me as a person. If they said that, oh, you know, you're ugly or your face looks weird, like, I'm not, when it comes to my physical being, that's not an insecurity for me. I'm pretty confident in myself for the most part. I mean, sure, I have like minor insecurities here and there, like, oh, my nose looks weird or stupid things like that, but it's never been like that big of a deal. But for me, it's more on my performance related things. Anything that requires somebody to give their opinion, where it requires somebody to like it, and I'm doing something for people to see, and it's based on just receiving criticism, whether it's asked for or not, that's where my insecurities are rooted. And that could really have a lot to do with the fact of, you know, being insecure when I was younger with the whole drawing thing. So that's another good reason to want to know what your insecurities are. Other things that might cause you to be insecure could be your physical features. So maybe you are very insecure when it comes to the way you look, or, you know, people commenting on the way you dress, and that's where your insecurities kind of fester. Or maybe you're the kind of person who is insecure when it comes to social settings. Like, maybe you cannot be around people because you feel like maybe you're not liked by them, or you're not good enough to be around that group, or they don't like you. Maybe that's an insecurity that you have. So basically, that is what I'm meaning by knowing what your insecurities are, because you most likely don't have every single insecurity. So I think just classifying as like, oh, I'm just insecure, is not beneficial for your growth. You need to know, where does it come from, because then you're going to be able to target it, and you're going to be able to stop it in its tracks, because you know, like, okay, before I already go into this situation, like whether you're insecure with social settings, before I even go into the social setting, then I need to recognize that that is an insecurity that I have. So what do I need to do to prepare myself before I go into the situation, so that insecurity does not take over that setting for me, you know? The third thing would be to recognize that your insecurities are not a personality trait. Now, this one was a really big one for me, because I classified my insecurities as a personality trait. Now, if you guys remember at the beginning of my video when I said that I'm sensitive, that is a personality trait. But I kind of took those two things and brought them together, and because my sensitivity causes me to be insecure sometimes, I thought that that was also a personality trait that I have. But insecurity is not a personality trait. It's very important to identify, because then it gives you that realization that if you're not born like this, if this is not something that you're just stuck with, then you can overcome it. It can be something that is not a part of your life. Like, that is possible. I never thought that it would be for me when I was growing up, and I think that was why it was something I struggled with for so long, because I thought it was something that I was stuck with. But listen to me, you are not stuck with your insecurities. You can overcome it, you can move past it, and you can grow. Ultimately, that insecurity, and that's the whole thing I kind of want you guys to get out of this. Like, yes, I'm giving you tips on helping you grow from it and moving past it, but overall your insecurities are preventing you from walking in your purpose. And so I might have to do like a part 2 of this video, because I really want to talk about like more on the purpose. So if that's something that you guys want, then definitely like comment down below, let me know, like this video. I probably shouldn't be saying all this stuff until the end, but yeah, I just kind of like started thinking about it. But this might have to be a part 2, because I really want to discuss like walking in your purpose, because once you're able to grow from that insecurity, then it's all uphill from there, like I promise you, because that's kind of in the season that I'm in right now. But yeah, recognize that your insecurities are not a personality trait. You don't want to claim it. It is not yours. You don't want it. You don't need it in your life. It's not who you are. And so when you can recognize that, then you can see it more as like, oh, this is just a problem that I'm having right now, and I just need to remove this from my life. Because you can remove it, and you will remove it, and we're going to do it together. So now that we kind of recognize everything, we know the root, we know it's not something that we have to live with for the rest of our life, now we can get to the healing process. So part of the healing process for me was to evaluate everything. Now, when I say this, I mean in every situation where I feel my insecurities trying to arise, I stop myself in my tracks and I evaluate. I say, wait a second, I feel this. I know what my insecurities feel like. Why am I feeling this right now? Like, question everything, evaluate every situation, even if that means going to the person that may be causing the insecurity. Not that they're necessarily causing it, but more so they're the ones triggering it, whether they know it or not. You can actually go up to that person and talk to the other human being and be like, hey, I just want to let you know that this is a issue, like this is a situation that I'm a little insecure about. So I just need clarity on it, just so I know, and just I'm reassured that what I'm thinking in my head is not reality. Because 80% of the time, not even, like 99.9% of the time, what you are thinking in your mind that is causing you to be insecure is not reality. So let's say if you are, actually I'm going to use an example for me. Like, if I was in a situation where I was doing worship at my church, and then someone may have commented and said like, oh, that song, you were a little off key and that's one song that you led, or whatever. Like, this hasn't actually happened, but let's say that that was a scenario that happened. So the first step I would want to take is to evaluate the heart behind what that person said. Now, if it's a friend or it's someone that I know, I can kind of, recognize that and say, okay, who is this person to me? This person is a friend, okay? This is my friend. Would they want to hurt me? No. And if that answer is yes, then it's not your friend. And also say, is there a reason why this person might say this to me if I know that they would not desire to hurt me? Maybe they want to make sure that I'm aware that there was an error in the song I was doing, so next time I sing that song, I can correct myself. And so in that process of evaluating, then I'm able to really see the situation for what it is. And if that's not enough to have peace of mind, just be like, okay, most likely this person was not trying to hurt me, so there's no need to be insecure in this situation. Like I said earlier, you can approach that person, because sometimes it all just takes the confrontation. And I know confrontation is a scary word. I don't like confronting people, but it's become something I've needed to do on a regular basis these days, because it allows for clarity. Because once you hear that physically from that person, it provides clarity. And if you decide to not take the word of what the person's saying, then that's a whole other issue in itself. But then we're gonna get to that in the next tip. But yeah, okay, so like I said, the next thing you would want to do is approach that person. And so you approach them and you say, hey, you said something about, like, this is my situation, like my scenario. I just wanted to address the fact that you said that I was a little off key on this song and let you know how I felt about it. I honestly, that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit and made me feel a little insecure on, my ability to sing. But I just wanted to let you know, because I have a feeling that your intentions were not to hurt me or to cause me to feel insecure, but I just wanted to talk to you about it. And so if that person is your friend or someone you know, then they will provide clarity and tell you, yes, you're right, I was not trying to hurt you. I was actually trying to just help you out, and so that you were aware of the mistake, and so you're able to grow from it. Now, I don't know what that situation would look like for you guys. I guess just fill in the blanks and, take whatever you need to take out of that scenario and fill in your scenario. But just being able to have that conversation will provide so much clarity, and it's a simple thing to do. It's hard, but once you do it, it's like, oh, I don't know why I didn't think to do this before, because now everything makes sense. So that is tip number 4. And moving on to the last tip, number 5, walking out in truth. Now, this tip would be more so for, it could apply to any situation really, but I feel like the situation that it specifically would apply to is maybe you are in a situation where somebody did mean to hurt you, whether it's you deal with more of like physical insecurities where you don't feel pretty, and then somebody just decided to be mean and say, hey, you look really ugly today. I don't know why you thought you could go out looking dressed like that. Like, maybe that is something that has happened to you. So we're going to talk about that too. I was more so talking about family and friends, people who obviously have your best interests at heart, and you just need that reassurance to know that they are not trying to hurt you. But what if somebody is? This is where this tip would come in perfectly. Just walking out in the truth. And recognizing the truth is that you are not ugly. And if you don't believe that, recognizing that physical features are not, and this is just for the specific person that might be dealing with that kind of insecurity. I'm sure this is something that everyone recognizes, but sometimes it's just hard for us to realize that. But there is no definition of a beautiful person. There's no definition of an ugly person. It's all based on opinions. And so if you can walk out in that truth, then you can recognize that, okay, maybe this person doesn't think I look good. That's fine. That's their opinion. But you can walk out in the truth, and the truth is that is an opinion, and that is not law. That is not a fact. That is someone's opinion. Whereas one person may say that to you and say that you are ugly. Another person may walk by and say, oh my gosh, you are the most beautiful or most handsome person that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's all opinion. And so another example of walking out in truth, maybe for me in my situation when it comes to my singing or guitar playing, if somebody comes up to me and they are wanting to hurt me and they say that, oh, you're just terrible at playing guitar, then I can walk out in my truth and recognize, like, did I actually do a good job? Let me play back that video from that service and see how well I actually did on that, or get an opinion from a professional. So if you're like me, where your insecurities are based off of your ability to do something and just your skill set and your performance, statements, don't take somebody's word if they are not a professional in that skill that you have. Like whether it's painting, whether it's singing, like, because that just falls into the category of opinion, and you can't take that as truth because that's someone's opinion. Now you can go to a professional if you do feel like maybe you didn't do a good job. If you honestly did a good job and you thought that you did before someone said them to you, then you don't even like just walk out in that truth. Like remind yourself what you thought before that, what that person said, and just walk out in that truth. But if you were a little bit insecure about it before someone even said something, go to a professional when whatever area it is and just talk to them, be like, hey, you know, I don't know if I did this really well, can you give me some tips, can you kind of like, you know, tell me like how well I did, and take that as the truth. Because if they're a professional, they're not going to be saying anything to hurt you, they're going to be giving you information based off of the professional knowledge. And if they do say, okay, you know, that really wasn't that great, but here's a way that you can make it better. And again, this is still something that I struggle with, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm like trying to say, oh yeah, this is easy, just do this, just do that. Like, no, these are things that I have to practice on a daily basis, and sometimes I miss the mark, and that's okay. You should never be striving for perfection, you should always be striving for progression. These famous words of Pastor Michael Todd that I live by, like ever since I heard him say it, like, I don't even know, a few months ago, because that's reality. Like, no one's ever perfect, you're never gonna be perfect, but if you strive to just progress, then you will start to see the fruit of that, and you will be able to grow in that. So this is not beneficial just for your mental health, but it's also beneficial for, like I said, to be walking out in your purpose. And so I really feel like I need to make a part 2 to this, just because I really want to talk about purpose. So if that's something that you guys want, let me know. Let me know, because I will do it for you. But hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys, has been encouraging for you guys, because it's hard. And sometimes you just need to be reminded of our worth. Sometimes we just need to be reminded of the truth and just be able to walk that out. And yeah, like, it's hard out here. And like I said, like already like 3 or 4 times, this is something I still struggle with. But by the grace of God and me walking these 5 tips out, I have grown so much. And even me just like recording this video and like making this is like growth in itself. And not even gonna lie, part of the reason why I made this video was so if I ever find myself in a situation where I just cannot fight off my insecurities, I can refer back to this video and it'll be encouraging for me. So if nobody else gets anything out of this video, I will get something out of it, and I know it's gonna help me. So but anyways, I just want to remind you guys that Jesus loves you, I love you, and if you haven't heard that anyone has loved you today, especially my insecure babies, I just told you that 2 people love you. So you need to walk out in that truth. Amen. Amen.